if you ask parents, what do you really want? I think they would say, I just want my kids to be happy. Right. And yet, do they really?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jeff Heilman Project. We're so glad that you've joined us today. You know, I forgot to ask last episode, how's life? How's it going?
I mean, life is pretty good.
I was so excited to get into our topic of boredom that it was just like, let's go. But I realized I didn't even think to ask how you're doing.
Thank you. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks. The seasons are changing. We're now in October, and I can't believe, it's hard to imagine that 10 months of 2025 are already passed, but, we're things are getting cozy and pumpkin spicy and football. This is the first year, I'll have everyone know that this is the first year I actually put the 49er games on the calendar because Andrew asked that we, make sure that we're present. Oh, speaking of which, there's a game tonight.
There's a game
at
tonight.
5:15.
Yeah.
It's Thursday. It's happening right now. 49ers are playing. So,
By the way, let's hear from Andrew because his voice is so great to jump in.
Our producer.
Tell us a little bit about what football means to you, kind of growing up in a family with a dad who didn't watch TV very much, or...
No, yeah. I mean, I didn't grow up watching much sports just because I was a theater kid. You were...
We didn't even have a TV for like most of your, we didn't have cable.
I stayed home watching like kid stuff and cartoons, and I didn't have, this isn't a criticism of you because I agree with the way that you did it, and it makes sense the way you did it, but you were busy most of the time, so I didn't have a dad to watch football with, or I didn't want to watch football with my dad. And that goes with all sports. You're a sports guy. You played football in high school. You played basketball in high school. You did all that world. You're a professional golfer. And I didn't grow up watching sports. So now recognizing that sports is a part of my culture and American culture, specifically American football, is I've become more patriotic in my beliefs. And
That's right.
I just think American football is super important and super cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that you think that it's cool. And I did grow up playing sports. I played basketball in junior high. I wrestled in junior high. I played football in junior high and high school. I ran track in junior high. I played golf in junior high. I played tennis in junior high and high school. I played golf in college. I had a black belt in karate. I raced bicycles. I did hiking. I did off-road BMX bike. I did mountain biking.
Sounds like your mom was trying to get you wore out.
She was trying to wear me out. 100%.
Get this boy to chill out.
And then on TV, I watched golf. I watched tennis. I watched basketball. I watched football. We watched the Olympics every 4 years.
Olympics are major.
But when I grew up and I got into business and I became an entrepreneur, all the successful people that I knew who were building a business. Now, if they'd already built a business and they were rich, then they had cable TV and courtside tickets and private jets and all that stuff, and they could do whatever they wanted from a fun perspective. But successful people that I knew who were building a business, who were building wealth, worked. They woke up in the morning with a plan, and they worked at that plan, and they did it until they fell asleep on their keyboard at night, and then they went to bed, crawled into bed, and got up and did it again and did it again and did it again. So for me, as an adult male, I'm not judging anyone, but I always felt that if I could better my family with the time that most people spent watching TV, I would be in a better situation. And we had some major advantages. Like, number one, we were poor. Number two, you stayed home, which meant I got to field all of the requests for all of the finances. And number three, we had 3 to 4 times more kids than most people had. And so when we look at watching TV, I just couldn't justify the expenditure of time and energy watching TV personally. And, I've taken a lot of grief over the years, not just from you and from the kids and family, but from friends who are like, you didn't see that movie? I'm like, I was working. When you were at the movie theater, I was working. When you were asleep, I was working. When you were waking up, I was working. When you were commuting, I was working. When you were having dinner with your family, I was working. When you were on vacation, I was working. And when you were taking a weekend, I was working weekends. And I did that on purpose because I wanted to have a life where I didn't have to say no to my family for things that seemed basic to me, like food and electricity and cell phone bills and car insurance and gas.
As an advocate for entrepreneurship and working hard, I think that I could have done a much better job raising the kids in the I think if I would have taken less focus off of the detainment purpose of entertainment and more putting the focus on the community aspect of having entertainment and inviting people, because part of what I feel like I missed out on in having a husband that worked as much as you did, but I'm so grateful that you did, and I wouldn't take any of it back. Part of what I missed out on was getting to invite people over and have that social aspect of maybe just like even one, whatever the big game is. Like if there's a big football game of the Niners and the Raiders or something like that, for example, like let's have a party, like let's have people over, because part of the extension of me as a homemaker or me as a mom and the kids being able to be
Church
around
family,
other
people in our community.
Yeah, are those rare potential moments when we can get together as a community and all watch together and fellowship. And so, I had to learn over the last 30 years of marriage, and now we're getting into I'm 48 and you just turned 50, and now that we're getting into our late 40s and early 50s, 50 to 60, I really hope that as the engine continues to go forward and as we have adult children like Andrew, that we can begin to do more social things, like have more football parties and have more. I mean, we always did a Super Bowl. Like that was one big thing that we always made sure that we would, have people over for. But I'd really like to see the not that the work time should diminish, but definitely be more at a manageable state to where we can increase the social calendar and equilibrate the management of the work calendar.
I like that word, equilibrate.
Yeah.
I know exactly what that means.
Yeah, like I want to equilibrate the work calendar and elevate our social calendar as we're kind of going into this next season. But as entrepreneurs, and the topic of today's conversation is really about, fostering entrepreneurship in a home to where you would hopefully, it's always been our intention that our children would become, that it would whet their appetite to be in business of their own or to be entrepreneurs of their own. And I think that is best cultivated by you doing it first. Like I would never expect our children to be excited about being in business for themselves or being entrepreneurs if we weren't also having a side hustle or doing something entrepreneurial in order to be like, hey, look, mom and dad can take the hits and mom and dad can do this fun thing and mom and dad have ideas. And so that's, I think, step one. What if you could, for this episode, and kind of recap, because we talk about entrepreneurship a lot on this podcast, could you define what it means to you, or what maybe the basic level of what is an entrepreneur? Who is an entrepreneur?
That's a really good question. And I think I'm not going to try to compete with the dictionary, but the first use of it, and I'm getting this from Tim Ferriss's book, I think it was the 4-Hour Work Week, where he talks about the first use of the word entrepreneur is in 1800 and nothing. 1800 was the year. And it was the concept of a sharecropper who was actually leasing the land, bringing the seed, bringing the labor, making an agreement with the farmer, figuring out what the percentages of the take would be, figuring out how to organize labor and get housing for the labor, and then doing the work, paying the farmer a lease payment on the land, and then a portion of the take from the crop when it was done, and then taking the stuff to market. And the word entrepreneur in French, if I'm saying it, I think entrepreneur is the English pronunciation, but it's two French words, entrepreneur. And entre is actually means between. And the word preneur means the one who takes or the one who makes out of something. So it's basically the in-between taker or the middleman. It is the coordinator of capital for the purpose of leveraged increase would be the closest thing. So I just kind of thought of that, the coordinator of capital for the purpose of leveraged increase. That's what they do. They take a phone, an internet connection, an idea, some labor, some lighting, some photography, and they build a reel and they post it on Instagram and they get attention as a result of it. And then they take somebody else's online course that sells for $100 with a $25 commission, and they put a link in their bio on Instagram, and they drive traffic with the algorithm and the platform to their homepage on Instagram or their profile page. And in their profile page, there's an affiliate link. And when the attention comes to the affiliate link and purchases are made, they get a commission. That's an entrepreneur. In the modern day form, people don't. How many people listen to the podcast know what a friggin' sharecropper is? Not very many, but I know what a sharecropper is because I've studied it, because I've studied entrepreneurship. But when you think in modern day terms, it's somebody who gets an affiliate link from an online course, puts it in their bio on Instagram, and then creates content with their cell phone, drives traffic to their bio page, gets that traffic to convert into sales, and then from that sale makes commissions. That's an entrepreneur. So an entrepreneur could be a lot of different businesses, a lot of different ways of doing it, but it's ultimately the person who's putting the idea and the capital and the labor and the leverage together in order to produce a profit.
On our last episode, we were talking about boredom and how the importance of boredom in allowing us to become creative and get into that creative space. And what I find most repetitive and the common denominator between the business people and the entrepreneurs that we've studied is it appears that an entrepreneur is an idea man. There's some light bulb that goes off at some point and they see 2 or 3 things and they put it together and they that's it. And then they begin a business with it. And so, I think that if we're going to label today's podcast how to inspire entrepreneurialism in your children or how to encourage your kids to be entrepreneurs, I really do think that the beginning basics is to allow your children to get bored. Allow your children try if you can to not overstimulate your children by getting them into soccer and piano and football and doing all of these things in after school, keeping them active all the way up until they go to bed at night because they just collapse, to allowing them to have margins in their day where they have nothing to do. And then seeing where the creative spark comes and what the ideas come from that in just being able to, go moving forward. And then that might encourage them in the area of entrepreneurialism and being able to make those connections that they see, a need here and a way to fill it here. And if I put the two together, but that observation would not have occurred if I, as a parent, just continue to slam their calendar to where they don't even have they don't even have time to think.
If we look at our kids, I'm just going to go through the list really quick, but I want to think in terms of our kids being interested in things. So for us, we encourage all of our kids. Number one, we've homeschooled them. That allows them to be bored because they're not being fed stuff they have to make their own school. They're basically self-educated. It's not homeschooled as much as
they call it unschooling.
But I would say it's self-educated
yes,
more than anything else. They have to find out, what are you interested in? And if we look at the interests, Jeffrey was interested in Batman. Joseph was interested in sports and social. Madeline was interested
in baking.
Madeline was interested in writing and theatrical and art. Andrew's interested in film. Washington was interested in streaming. Teddy's interested in drawing, and Nessie still kind of figuring out what she's.
Well, she loves animal. She wants to be a nurse. She
likes
wants to be a doctor.
She likes animals.
She likes blood. That girl,
Yeah.
she's like, ooh, show me. Like, oh,
Obviously,
I got a boo-boo.
fear
Show me.
is not a factor for her. So if we look at what does the modern day entrepreneurship look like with each of those interests, today, Jeffrey is working on a screenplay. Joseph is working on designing his own video game. Madeline has TikTok reels and is doing these mock-ups back and forth. Like, she could do stand-up comedy, no problem. Her stuff is super funny. Andrew has production
And he's in
of
film
multiple
school.
podcasts, and he's in film school. Washington is getting millions of views on his streaming channel. Teddy is continuing to draw and work on content creation from a cartooning perspective. And Nessie just got her first camera and is now taking digital photography. So each of those people have different interests, and those interests, through boredom, are driving them to create some form of content, which, again, at the end of the day, the world that we live in is a world of day trading people's attention. And as entrepreneurs, the better job we do of day trading people's attention, the easier it's going to be for us to attract the larger audiences that will support whatever the product or service that we're merchandising, or the access or influence that we're looking at getting. And even this podcast, we started off 2 years ago. We now have 300 subscribers. We probably have had, I don't know, a couple 100,000 views, I think, total between all of our reels and stuff. It's not a ton, but we are developing a brand. And in my consulting business, people refer to me as Jeff Heilman from the Jeff Heilman Project. So there's a branding exercise in that's helping our entrepreneurship journey through the actual content creation and the branding that we're creating.
And as we continue to talk about kids and encouraging them towards entrepreneurialism or being in their own business, or just being at the core of who they are as American citizens who have been given sovereignty, they have this ability to be whatever. I mean, we happen to believe and teach that they have the ability to be whatever they believe that they can be, like that there's no limitations to their ability to believe, to be able to do great things and feel the most in tune to who their skill set. As a person who decided to homeschool the kids, and as I was given the responsibility to drive the children's education and make those decisions, trust me, we went to the public schools and we like basically interviewed them to see what they had to offer. And I remember going to private schools. I remember going to Christian schools and going into their classrooms and seeing what they had to offer, and having to make the educated decision to not go the traditional school route. In the beginning, I did homeschooling very by the book. I had worksheets. I did, 9 to 3.
We were good little compliant.
I had all of the little I had the tables set up, and I had the kids sitting down with their pencils, and it was very.
We did it exactly
It was very
like we
formulated.
Were told. We did what we were told.
And then I began to feel very convicted that I just feel very.
Bored.
I started to feel bad because I felt like I wasn't good enough, because what if my kids were supposed to be lawyers one day or doctors one day, and they weren't getting the level of education that would drive them to being able to have the higher education required. And then it really was, I really felt it spoke to me to say, well, look, if your kids were supposed to be raised any differently, they would have had different parents. Like, clearly these children were gifted, if you will, to you as parents. And you too, Jeff and I, are both entrepreneurs. And so it would be totally out of the element to expect that they would be growing up to be doctors and lawyers, because their parents aren't doctors and lawyers and didn't put the same level of importance on higher education, because we are entrepreneurs. And so that kind of gave me some relief to be like, hey, you know what? If these kids were meant to have different parents and like were meant to be raised a different way, they would have been given different parents, but they were given you. And so you do the best that you can in raising them and continue to grow and educate yourself. And then there will be a product that comes out of that will be continued fostered growth. And so going to the Bible, which is kind of where I get most of my source of inspiration, I looked at the life of Jesus and I was like, there's nothing written outside of the manger scene. There's nothing written about Christ before he turned 12. And so I took that to mean personally that our children, if we give them enough room to be in the presence of their mom and dad, go to church as Christ went to the temple, learn from his friends and his associates and his cousins and his mom and his dad, and John the Baptist is coming over for dinner, and like until they're 12, if we just let them bloom and grow and watch them as observers, that by the time that they're 12 and Christ showed up at the temple teaching as a apprentice rabbi, it should be pretty clear what they're interested in. Like it should be pretty clear where their hearts and their dreams and their passions are by the time of 12.
People say, I think there's so much subtext in raising kids and the subtext is the things that people are thinking but don't say, right? Mm-hmm. I think that if you ask parents, what do you really want? I think they would say, I just want my kids to be happy. Right. And yet, do they really? Because if you wanted your kids to be happy, why would you send them to public school for 12 years? It makes them miserable. They're not happy. They're stressed out. They're told what to do. They don't get to be free,
focusing
right?
on their weaknesses instead of their strengths.
Yeah, focusing on weaknesses instead of their strength, focusing on perfection and the demerits against it instead of pass-fail, which life's a pass. We talked about that. Mm-hmm. Life is not an A, B, C, D, E graded USDA grade beef. Mm-mm. Beef grading system. How degrading is being graded like a beef? Yeah, none of the people that I know that are super successful that have made billions of dollars would ever have their kids anywhere near public school ever. Many of them homeschooled them themselves, or they'll have a governess. I mean, what rich people do is you hire a governess and you have your governess teach your children.
The traditional way of educating says that, okay, you've gone to school you've been told by someone else for 12 years, and it's traditional, public or private, for 12 years you've been being told what to do, and now you're an adult, now you've graduated, now there you go. Now you get to create now you do what you feel like. How am I supposed to do anything without somebody telling me what to do? I don't understand.
Yeah, I've never done it. I've never made decisions on my own before. Exactly. I've always been told what to do. And I think if you really look at people that say that they want their kids to be happy, what they really want to do is, number one, they don't want to be made fun of as parents or made to feel bad. And number two, they're scared to death that their children will not be able to survive to adulthood if they don't follow this protocol pattern. And by the way, folks, kids have been surviving to adulthood without public school for 8,000 years. So just so you know, they're going to make it.
It was only 1930 that it became.
For the last 100 years, everybody thinks that this one thing is absolutely, you can't live without it. And people lived without it for thousands.
It's been less than 100 years that school has been mandatory.
Mandatory, yeah.
It's less than 100 years in America.
Why would it be mandatory? That's wild, right? Ask about that. If something was really good, like housing, is housing mandatory? No. It's good, but you don't have to be told. You should probably live indoors, right? And yet, if school is mandatory, how good could something be if it was mandatory? Yeah. I don't know. It's wild to think about, but people don't ask these questions because everybody does it, right?
And
so we live by herd mentality.
It's our culture, right?
Oh, and we get to pumpkin spice lattes.
I think COVID and the pandemic really shook that up.
Shook that crap.
And so there's some of us that we've always done it, and there's others that are having to explore this new concept of homeschooling or unschooling. And I just, with today's episode, and I know we're running short on time, but I just wanted to encourage anybody who's thinking or hoping that their kids would become entrepreneurs or considering a non-traditional way of educating, that this is just what has appeared. It's still an experiment. I'm still waiting to see how is this going to turn out, because nobody has ever done it. I mean, I'm not necessarily in a group with a whole bunch of, I have homeschooling friends now, especially coming out of pandemic, but making these decisions 20 plus years ago to go this route took a big leap of faith, and it took a lot of prayer and a lot of looking and learning and trying to find out, what is an autodidacte and how can I foster autodidacacy in my family. And an autodidacate is just someone who's self-taught. So like, I know that there have been a lot of pianists that became concert pianists who were autodidacates and who taught themselves how to play the piano. And so what I've been attempting to do with our own children, all 7 of them, is to say, I know it's difficult and I know it's extremely challenging to accept that you're an autodidacate in whatever you're doing, but we're here for you as mom and dad to give you the tools. If you're interested in the greatest thing that piques my ears and interest is to hear kids say, I'm interested in something.
Totally.
Like, hey mom, I want to learn something about this. And it's like,
Totally.
okay, well, what do you need? What can we do? And how can we support? And we might not have endless amounts of money, but let's get you the YouTube links, or let's put you in touch with people that are doing what you're interested in, and see if you like it, and see if it's something that is worthy of your time that you might want to continue moving forward in.
Let's remember too that the reason why people come to the United States is not because we have great weather, although we do. The reason people come to the United States is because we're rich. And the reason we're rich is not because we have jobs working for somebody else. The reason we're rich is because we have a government in the United States that protects property law. That's it. If we protect property law, that means that if I buy that Mercedes-Benz that's sitting over there and I've got the title to it, it's mine. It belongs to me. And if somebody steals it and they find it somewhere, the police will bring it back to me. And I have the right to take it back. In fact, we had a car that was stolen one time, and you showed me where it was.
I did. I found it.
And I stole that sucker back from those bad guys while they ran out of gas. And they came back, and the police came, and I don't remember if he pulled a weapon on me or not, but the car was reported as stolen. And I don't think he drew down. I don't think he drew down on me, but he said, I need to see your identification. And I said, I've got it right here. I said, hands up. I'll show you my identification. I match the title. And he told me he'd never heard of somebody stealing their car back before. But I stole it from the bad guys while they ran out of gas. They left the keys on the front seat, which is super convenient. I definitely appreciate those bad guys down at AZ Repair or whatever it was that stole it. But because they put their company phone, I could tell who stole it because they put their company phone into the Bluetooth, the morons. But I guess they weren't expecting me to steal my car back the same day. I remember, too, it was March 27th, 1918, 2018, the day after I got laid off.
Your Model T got stolen.
My Model T. You can steal any car you want as long as it's black. But the police saw that it was my car, and they matched the registration with my driver's license, and they said, okay, this is your car. You have the keys to it now. And then the police officer gave me a ride to the gas station to get gas and got me my car back and sent me on my way. And I was able to invoke the militia of the Commonwealth to enforce the law that protects property rights. And the reason why that's so important is because when you have the militia at your back to enforce property rights, then you have the profit motive protected. See, if there's no property rights, then there's no reason to go out and make a bunch of money to buy a nice house if somebody can come and squat in your house. There's no reason to go out and make a bunch of money to buy a nice car if somebody can steal your car and get away with it. But if somebody can pretty much believe that they're going to be able to own the car that they buy, then there's going to be a profit motive. And as long as the taxes are not so high that it's just not even worth it to do anything anymore, then the profit motive is protected. All you have to do is protect the profit motive. Because if you do that, then the people who are ambitious and want to get ahead and work hard have a reason to work hard and get ahead. And people talk about, well, equal opportunity. How about equal output? They don't want equal opportunity. They want equal output. And the beautiful thing is they have the ability to get equal output. If somebody goes and makes $1 million and they buy a house or buy a car, somebody else can go make $1 million, buy a house, buy a car, and people say, oh, well, they had a better opportunity. Maybe they did. And then the question becomes, what are you, the individual, who, if you're successful and you're going to want to have the equal opportunity, equal output, what are you, the individual, going to do to go and create that opportunity for yourself? And so I really don't have a lot of sympathy for poor people or people who refuse to educate themselves or work hard. I've just found, I was poor. I was fairly uneducated from a technical perspective. And I just found that there aren't that many things that you really want to go achieve in your life that working 100 hours a week isn't going to accomplish for you. And some people are like, well, I don't want to work 100 hours a week. I'm not asking you to. I'm not asking you to work 100 hours a week. I'm simply saying, if you want to go out and be productive and you want to work 100 hours a week in this country in 2025, I have found that you can still accomplish financially just about anything that you want with exceptionally, brutality level hard work. Until you get smart enough to figure out how to apply leverage and have money work for you, have people work for you, go and get into sales, get into highly leveraged comp plans, and make $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in a commission check. This is the greatest opportunity in the history of the universe to be able to make cash with leverage and then take that money and compound it over time. I was looking at Facebook stock. I could have bought Facebook stock like 2 years ago for $90 a share, and it's up over $300, $350. Like, I'd have $250,000 on a $40,000 investment, like literally, because of the compounding of growth in a free marketplace where people have a sense of property law being enforceable. So when we look at that, with the profit motive being protected because of the government that we live under, and we look at the opportunity that we have in the United States, which is just absolutely astronomically better than anybody else. You don't see an exagration, a deportation quota, like it's an immigration quota. We can only have so many people come in. Why is that? Because people don't want to leave. You aren't seeing people, immigrate to Mexico unless they think they can get across the border into here. Mexico's the place you go through on the place you really want to go. Nothing wrong with Mexico, but people are trying to get out of Mexico. They're trying to get into the U.S. Why is that? Is that because this place sucks? No, it's because we're rich and we protect property law. Super simple. And that creates the opportunity for all of the abundance. We have the capital markets, we have the cash, we have the banking systems, we have infrastructure, we have stability. We don't have to worry about suicide bombers blowing up a cafe. When was the last time you heard about a suicide bomber blowing up a cafe in Detroit or Kalamazoo or Miami? It doesn't happen the way it does in the Middle East. And because of that, people have a sense of stability and safety. And because of that, they start to blossom as human beings because they don't have to worry about the basics like food, clothing, shelter, and not getting blown up by a suicide bomber. And because of that, it is our duty, in my opinion, to really press the envelope on entrepreneurship and try to find a way to get leveraged income so that we can get rich, so that we don't have to worry about money and can talk about all the other things that a lot of people who haven't gotten rich seem to pontificate on but can't do anything about because they're broke.
And I think that as we look at encouraging entrepreneurialism in a society, and especially talking about children and entrepreneurialism, it takes a tremendous amount of support. And people really, if you want to see change in your community, and the greatest changes in our communities come from support and the support of entrepreneurs who are the idea makers, that when those light bulbs go off and they have the next great idea, all they often need is one person to say that is a good idea. And as long as if
That's
you're
right.
not the person that's the entrepreneur because you don't have the idea, but you know somebody who thinks they might have an idea, the best thing that you can do for your community directly is to encourage them to attempt to develop that idea. So I would strongly want to encourage anybody who would like to, who sees the state of the earth, the evil in the world, and the unfortunate occurrences of, the school shootings and all of these things, all these terrible things, that if you really want to see your community change, begin encouraging the entrepreneurs. And
I totally
with that,
agree.
Love you
I totally
guys.
agree.
We're so excited to be with you next week when we get back to the Jeff Heilman Project. We will be hot off of a vacation. Woohoo! First vacation that the two of us have gone on in a long time.
I don't remember, 2 years,
And we cannot
right? Since we
wait
went
to tell you about it when we get back. So God bless you. Have an awesome rest of your week. And thanks for tuning in to the
Thanks,
Jeff
everybody.
Heilman Project.
Have
Bye-bye.
a great week.